One of the common accusations against homeopathy from its critics is that homeopathy treats only symptoms, without diagnosing the disease properly. This criticism comes from the idea that diagnosis means fitting the sufferings of the patient into a particular disease name, given in the textbooks. It is wrong to say, homeopathy treats only symptoms. Actually, homeopathy uses totality of symptoms as an indirect means for identifying the exact biomolecular errors underlying the disease conditions, as symptoms are nothing but subjective and objective expressions of underlying molecular level pathology. Homeopathy uses similarity of disease symptoms and drug symptoms as a means to identify the appropriate therapeutic agent, based on the knowledge of biochemistry that molecules with similar, functional groups can bind to similar, biological targets and produce similar, molecular inhibitions that are expressed through similar, trains of symptoms, and that similar, molecules will compete each other for binding to same biological targets, leading to the removal of molecular inhibitions. This is the basis of therapeutic principle similia similibus curantur. If we could identify the drug molecules that are similar to particular disease-causing molecules, molecular imprints of those drug molecules can act as artificial binding pockets for those disease-causing molecules by their conformational affinity and deactivate them, thereby removing the pathological molecular inhibitions they had produced in the organism. This is the molecular mechanism of high-dilution therapeutics involved in homeopathy. When a homeopath selects a particular drug or a combination of drugs as similimum, for a particular patient on the basis of totality, of subjective and objective symptoms, he is actually making a diagnosis of disease as well as its remedy, that is more comprehensive, more minute, more deep, more subtle and more specific than what is commonly known as diagnosis according to the paradigms of modern medicine. Homeopathic diagnosis of identifying a similimum actually goes much deeper level into the identification of exact molecular level errors existing in the individual. These molecular level errors could not be accurately identified with any modern sophisticated techniques or biochemical studies with such a perfection, other than by the observation of subjective and objective symptoms expressed by the individual. Disease diagnosis of modern medicine is only a very superfluous part of this molecular level total diagnosis done by homeopathy. That is why modern medicine find it difficult to treat without proper disease diagnosis, whereas homeopathy can treat any complex case by its symptom diagnosis methodology. Derangement in a particular biochemical pathway resulting from a molecular level inhibition produces a specific train of subjective and objective symptoms in the organism. In other words, each specific group of symptoms exhibited by the organism indicates a particular error in a particular biochemical pathway occurred in the molecular level. Homeopathy actually chases these trains of symptoms to their minutest level, from periphery to interior, in order to identify the exact molecular errors underlying any particular state of pathology. Then, those pathological molecular inhibitions are removed by applying appropriate therapeutic agents, selected on the basis of law of similars or similia similibus curantur. The subjective and objective symptoms presented by the organism are the only reliable indicators to help us correctly understand the minute molecular deviations underlying a state of pathology. Each group or trains of symptoms represent a specific molecular error that had occurred in a particular biochemical pathway. These symptoms invariably indicate the specific type and character of the endogenous or exogenous foreign molecules or ions responsible for the causation of particular molecular inhibition. By studying the train of symptoms carefully and systematically, homeopaths are actually observing these exact molecular inhibitions. This symptom-based analytical method of diagnosing done in homeopathy is far more exact and superior to the multitude of expensive complex laboratory chemical tests and imaging technologies we consider to be scientific. Identifying the exact molecular errors in the organism of the patient by observing the expressed symptoms, and identifying the most appropriate therapeutic agents from the similarity of symptoms those drugs could produce in healthy organism. This is the scientific essence of similia similibus curantur. This fundamental strategy underlying the homeopathic system of therapeutics evidently surpasses even the most scientific methods of modern molecular medicine. It is high time that the modern medicine realize and recognize this great truth, and incorporate this wonderful tool of homeopathy into their armamentarium. Obviously, similia similibus curantur is the most effective technique of identifying and removing the pathological molecular inhibitions in the organism.